Hola, año 11. Hello, year 11, and welcome to the next in the series of the environment lessons. I'm thinking this might be the last in the series on the environment. In this lesson today, I'll be going through la deforestacion, el escasez del agua. I'll be looking at some of your listening skills, particularly with numbers, and I'll be looking for you to complete your questions in the conversation booklet on environment. Now, although we know now that we're not going to be having exams, I still need you to complete the environment questions, of course, because I need all the evidence I can get to justify me giving you the grades. Now, your mock exams are going a long way to do that, but as I say, I need absolutely everything I can. You've got the time though, so don't panic. The pressure's off a little bit, but please try and get these submitted as much as you can. Okay, so do all of your work today in your Spanish booklets. If you'd like anything marked, feel free to take a picture of it and email it to me and I'll get that back to you. Here we go. So, la deforestacion. I'm going to read it out to you, a bit like circle time in primary, and there'll be a set of questions here that you need to answer. So, la deforestación es la destrucción de los bosques a causa de la tala de muchos árboles. Una de las zonas más afectadas está en el sur de América, en las Amazonas. Aproximadamente 80,000 acres de selva tropical están destruidos cada día. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's deforestation. Now, I've underlined a few things because they are key items of vocabulary linked to deforestation. It's a bit of a strange thing, really, because if you do geography, you might already know what deforestation is, and you might be able to give an answer to these questions anyway. If you need a little bit of help, look. That's what these mean. A bosque is the woods or forest, arbol, tree, tala, felling, or the cutting down of, and selva being jungle. Now hopefully this will make the text a little bit easier if you were struggling with it. Now although you might have prior knowledge on this, you want to give your answer according to the text. Now we've kind of taken care of part number 4, because we needed it. But part number 3, according to the text, what is deforestation, what is Amazonas, and what does the figure 80,000 refer to? Pause the tape now and write your answers, and they will show up now. So deforestation is the destruction of the forests caused by the felling of trees. What's Amazonas? It's one of the most affected areas, it's the Amazon. And 80,000 refers to the acres of tropical rainforest destroyed every day. Okay, great. So, moving on. You are now going to be working on a worksheet which I've put up on our Moodle page under El Medio Ambiente. It's called the Amazonas Reading Task. It's been taken from a magazine, an actual Spanish magazine, so some of the language there might be a bit difficult to get your head around, but I want you to think about the strategies that you can apply when you're dealing with a longer item of text or something that looks difficult. So let's have a think about it. The first thing I would do is, and my instructions are in Spanish now, subraya las palabras que conocemos. You do this every single time. You underline the words that you know, or that we know. Okay. Why? Well, for the simple fact that es más positivo. If you've got an item of text in front of you and someone says, right, underline everything you know, the more that's underlined, the better you feel. It's all in your mind. The next thing is busca las palabras similares al inglés. So find the words which are similar to the English. Again, it's all about your mindset. Fake it till you make it. It's literally more comforting. It's more reassuring. There's a lot of English in here. Generally, if it looks like English, it's usually the same thing. They can really help us. Be aware that 1 or 2 words sometimes don't work that way, but for the most part, that'll help. After that, I would corta el texto en partes pequeños. I'd cut the text into smaller parts. Deal with one little bit at a time, one paragraph perhaps at a time, one sentence at a time if you have to, rather than thinking, wow, this is a hell of a lot of writing right here, where on earth do I start? Why? Because visualmente es menos aterrador. So visually, it's less, literally terrifying. Okay, I know we're not sitting there scared, but it's less intimidating, I suppose. And finally, utiliza el contexto. Use the context para comprender el resto, in order to understand the rest of the text. So we're going to be reading a text about Amazonas. It's to do with deforestation, things going on in the jungle, so on and so forth. If you do all that, you'll be looking like my friend here. Thumbs up. I just learned how to insert a GIF. So you've downloaded the worksheet Amazonas reading task. You're gonna follow those steps while you read the text, and you've got a couple of exercises to do. So here it is. For part A, talking about the anaconda. A es de anaconda. A is for anaconda. Give all the details, tell me where it hides, and what does it eat. So for hides, you're looking for the phrase se esconde. For C, caucho. What is it? Where do we find it? How do people use the liquid produced by the tree? For letter D, which is deforestacion, why is the jungle said to be important? What are people doing to it, and what's said about the Amazon jungle in particular? And finally, Ch. What did the Aztecs or the Mayans use as chewing gum? Chicle. What is modern day chewing gum now made of? Again, according to the text. And if you find this a little bit difficult in places, that's normal. Okay, like I said, this is taken from a genuine Spanish magazine. I forget which one it is. It might even be the National Geographic. And it's very specific language. So if you need to, use wordreference.com to help you with items of vocabulary, or you can ask me in our team during this lesson, but hopefully you'll be able to get the gist of what's going on here, because that is what it's all about. Again, write all of your answers in your book. If you've got the facility to print this out as well, that would be good, but don't panic if not. Okay, so moving on to la escasez de agua, the lack of water then, I guess. So the objective here is to saber más, know more, especially in South America, and understand the causes for the lack of water in the world. Now, I am going to begin with a listening task, okay? So, it's all about el agua in America Latina, and here we have Latin America. I am going to read this text that you see right here in blue. You've got 6 missing words. Now, these missing words are numbers. Okay, so what I want you to do, and this is an exam favourite, they start to mess with your minds by mixing up numbers. I'm going to read all this out, but I'm also going to say the number that's behind the blue box. You have 2 choices. You can either listen to me straight away and give your answer, yeah, what you think you hear, or you can do that and use the box here to make a choice. So it's either this one or that one. It's either this one or that one. A little bit of help. So in a nutshell, write what number you think you hear for each gap. So I will read this twice, much like the real exam. I'll go fairly slow. Of course, the benefit you've got here, because it's recorded, you can play it back as many times as you like, and that's all good. But I'm beginning now. So, number 1. La población mundial se abastece con el 0,5% del agua fresca disponible para consumo humano. I'm going to do number 1 again. La población mundial se abastece con el 0,5% del agua fresca disponible para consumo humano. Now I have just said one of these here. Which one was it? Okay, number 2. 75 millones de latinoamericanos no tienen acceso a agua limpia. once again, for number 2, 75 millones de latinoamericanos no tienen acceso a agua limpia. What number have I just said there? Number 3. 116 millones de personas carecen de servicios sanitarios. Again. 116 millones de personas carecen de servicios sanitarios. You write your number in by number 3. Number 4. Solamente el 14% de las aguas residuales reciben tratamiento. Solamente el 14% de las aguas residuales reciben tratamiento. Okay. Number 5. El 74% del agua fresca se emplea en riego y la producción agrícola. So, 64 or 74, let's see. 74% del agua fresca se emplea en riego y la producción agrícola. And finally, number 6. Cada año mueren 34 de cada 1000 niños por enfermedades asociadas a la falta de agua. Cada año mueren 34 de cada 1000 niños por enfermedades asociadas a la falta de agua. Okay, so numbers is a difficult thing, right? Their numbers seem to be a lot more complicated than ours. They test you on it. It is what it is. When you will be doing more mocks in inverted commas in order to help me actually give you a justifiable grade. Why do they test numbers all of the time? Because they're always confused, particularly the ones where they're so close, so 75, 65, 106, 116, so on and so forth. So it's worth knowing them. I'm not going to display the answers. If you want to mark this, the PowerPoint version of this video is on Moodle. The answers are on there. Okay, now then. Understanding what you're reading. So talking about the lack of water in Latin America, the headline here is actualmente, nowadays, 1 de cada 5 habitantes de América Latina no tiene acceso al agua potable. All I want from you in your book is tell me, what is that saying in English? You don't have to literally translate, but in general, summarize that. What's happening? There's a clue here. When I press the button, a picture will come up as a clue, which might lead you to the right answer. But I want you to see, first of all, how much can you understand just by reading. So, actualmente, 1 de cada 5 habitantes de América Latina no tiene acceso al agua potable. Boom. There's a clue. Now what you're getting here, a literal translation would be, nowadays 1 in 5 inhabitants or people who live in Latin America don't have access to drinking water, agua potable. How close were you to that translation? Next. 75 millones de latinoamericanos no tienen acceso a agua limpia. There's your keyword, limpia. You could translate this one if you feel like. 75 millones de latinoamericanos no tienen acceso a agua limpia. Your picture clue? There. So you're looking at 75 million Latino Americans don't have access to clean water. So this is a picture taken from Colombia. Next. So we've got 116 millones carecen de servicios sanitarios. New word here, carecen. It's in the they form, clearly, because it ends in en. 116 millones carecen de servicios sanitarios. I'm hoping that your knowledge of English will help you here. Picture clue. Now a pozo is a well. So here we have a public well in the Dominican Republic, and basically what we're saying here is 116 million people, they lack sanitary services, clean stuff, I guess. A shocking state of affairs. Next. Solo el 14% del agua recibe tratamiento. Tratamiento. How would you translate that? Solo el 14% del agua recibe tratamiento. Think about this water. What's wrong with it? What does it need? Picture clue. Again from Colombia. Keyword right here. Only 14% of the water receives, well, literally treatment. So of all the water that's there, only 14% of it is clean enough to use. Cada año mueren 34 de cada mil niños. I think this one's quite straightforward. Cada año, every year, por enfermedades asociadas con la falta de agua. Here we have a hospital in Leogane in Haiti. So every year 34 in 1,000 kids are dying as a result of illnesses linked to the lack of water. Shocking. What's the point in this task is for you to understand headlines. Sometimes the exam board will put, and this might happen for the tests that they send us, they might use real, authentic materials, much like the Amazonas task that you did earlier, and put in your exam to see what you can understand. Okay, so this is going to be a picture of un grifo in Maldonado in Uruguay. Se abstecen de este grifo, 300 personas. Now, un grifo, this is something really, we haven't seen this before, I wouldn't have thought so anyway. And the vocabulary is getting quite technical now, but a grifo is a tap. In this village in Uruguay, Maldonado, this one tap, se abstecen, I guess you would say it's used by or shared by 300 people. Crazy. Right, now as we've been going through this, it would have been good if you've made some notes. If you haven't, no problem. You can always rewind the tape. When it comes to writing your answers from the conversation booklet, it might be good, and I think it's recommended, to use some of this, some of these headlines, as an example, perhaps. Shows the examiner that you know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué hay escasez de agua en el mundo? Why do we have the lack of water in the world? There's a number of suggestions. Here they are. Easy enough task, or straightforward enough task, is can you match the statements to the pictures? So we've got el crecimiento de la población, el deshielo de los glaciares, la agricultura intensiva, la falta de saneamiento, evaporación y contaminación con pesticidas. If you pause the video now, you can match them up, maybe give the English as much as you can, and we'll go through what they mean. So, el crecimiento de la población. Well, Crecimiento literally means the growth, so growth of the population. The more people there are that need to have the water. So you're talking about a sharing problem here. Deshielo de los glaciares, the melting of the ice caps affects it. Now, I don't have a geography GCSE, so getting into the technicalities here, I wouldn't want to tell you anything that's wrong, but I am reliably informed by Miss Gleason and Mr. Jones that this does lead to a shortage in water. Agricultura intensiva, well, just mass agriculture, uses more water. Falta de saneamiento, a lack of, health, a lack of cleanliness then. Evaporacion, simply evaporation. And pesticidas. If you don't know what a pesticide, something that you put on your crops to help them grow, but they're contaminated. It's leading to contamination of water. Again, these are things that you might be able to use as an example in your conversation booklet answers. Okay, a exam style task again. I've told you before that every time that a year group does a Spanish or French exam, when they've been marked by the examiners, Mrs. Hillier and I get a report as to how well you all did on each sort of question. And over the years, we've found the pattern that partnerized pupils don't deal well with gap fill. I don't know why. It's something that we have to work on. Doesn't matter so much this year, I suppose, now that the government have said that there's no exam. But here we go. Obviously, you need to fill in the gaps. You can see that. The very first thing I would do is have a read. Do you need to know it all, or do you need to understand all of it? Not necessarily. I mean, look at this portion of the text. No gaps. Do you need to worry? Probably not. There's no comprehension questions attached to this, so perhaps it's not all that important to you. Now, this type of question is a little bit more difficult as well, because the gaps aren't just nouns or adjectives, they're verbs. Looking at your grammar here. So the first thing I would do, have a read, of course. I would then look at the words before and after the gap. So for example, you're looking to see if there is a loss or a lass before the gap, and that might lead you to the right answer if we were looking at nouns. In this case, you might want to look at the tense. That might help. So the next thing I would do then is think, right, do I know what these words mean? Now, I think you're going to know most of them, except for maybe va a superar. But just so there's no confusion, here are your answers. Tiene, has. Era, was. Son, are. Va a superar is going to exceed. Future tense. S is, será will be. Now you've got to think to yourself, where might they fit logically, having read the text? Now, just like the other task, there's no answers on this video. If you want to mark this, you will find the answers on the lesson PowerPoint, which I've uploaded onto Moodle. See how you do. Alright, next task then for the book is all about I've got two environmental issues with a set of statements which I need you to sort into the correct column. El problema, las causas, las consecuencias, las soluciones. Now I'm hoping you can see what they mean, or you understand what they mean, but if not, the problem, the causes, the consequences, the solutions. We like these, they're cognates. Now then, they go hand in hand. The problem and the causes are sort of like a pair, and the consequences and the solutions are kind of like a pair. So let's have a go. Here we have a problem. Ignore the date. It's from ages ago, this is. This problem, of course, is dirty water. Okay, you can see that. What I need you to do is sort these statements into problem, consequence, causes, solutions. Have a read. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to understand everything, but let's see how you do. Pause the tape now. maybe write these statements out in your book, put down whether you think they're a problem, consequence, cause, or solution, and then mark it against this video when I start talking again. Okay, so como consecuencia los peces y las plantas mueren. Well, that's a giveaway, como consecuencia. Clearly, a consequence. So as a consequence, fish and plants die. Muchas empresas y fábricas tiran desperdicios al agua. Right, so many businesses and factories throw waste in the water. That's a cause. Next, el desperdicio en los ríos y océanos. That is the problem. The waste that you find in the rivers and waters. La gente también tira basura. You should know this one, basura. It's a causa, it's a cause, because people also throw rubbish. Se debe. You don't even need to understand the rest. Se debe, you know, means you must. So that, of course, is a solution. So tejidos is just your clothing, things like that, your stuff. You have to recycle things. And finally, the consequence, los ríos parecen feos. The rivers seem ugly, or look ugly. Try this again now, then with a different task, a different environmental problem. Here it is. The ozone layer, I believe. So, here you have issues with the ozone layer. We've got same idea. Have a read of my sentences. Try and put those into problem, consequence, cause, solution. You can pause the video now, do your work, and when you press it again, I'll go through the answers. So, in Argentina y Chile, produce cambios de clima. This, of course, is a cause. Argentina and Chile produces climate change. It is what it is. La destrucción de la capa de ozono. Destruction of the ozone layer is the problem. Australia presenta un aumento de casos de cáncer de piel. Here we've got consequencia. Australia has shown an increase in cases of skin cancer as a result of changes in the ozone layer. Se sabe que hay un agujero en la capa de ozono desde el año 85. A fancy word is some very technical language, but it's known that there is a hole in the ozone layer since 1985, which is the consequence. And finally, la gente debe reducir la producción de los humos malos producidos por los coches. Hopefully you've put that under solución. People need to, or they should, reduce production of bad fumes produced by smoke, by cars. Again, is this something in these two tasks that you might steal for the conversation book questions? Okay, that's something a little bit different now. It's a way to get you thinking creatively. Here's a picture. Describe the photo in, that should say no more than 20 words in Spanish. It's quite difficult really, isn't it? But just say what you see. Good luck with that one. I'll be interested to see what you can come up with. No more than 20 words. Try and be as descriptive as you possibly can. See what you come up with. The next one is this. Describe this photo in between 10 and 20 words in Spanish. What are we doing here? We're encouraging you to get creative. You can talk about the colours, you can talk about what you can see, you can talk about, well, anything as long as it's linked to that picture in between 10 and 20 words. Now it gets more difficult. Describe this photo in exactly 15 words in Spanish. And then describe this photo, but you can't use the word bosque or arbol forest or tree. As many words as you like, but you can't use those 2 words. I'll be interested to see what you come up with. Now, either you send me all this work from today via email or what, I don't mind, or you can wait until you're back in school and I can mark your books. It doesn't matter, but please try and be as creative as you possibly can. Okay, so when that is done, I might have put a lot of work online today because I'm conscious that we do have 3 hours to fill. If it's too much, then don't worry. We can always pick it up next week. But the next thing to work through is a worksheet, which is on Moodle called the medio ambiente reading and writing revision worksheet. You've done some similar tasks before. Hopefully the instructions are clear enough on the worksheet. If not, then please feel free to ask me and clarify with me on Teams. And I can mark it there if you like. And there, finally, are the 7 questions for the conversation booklet. Again, when it's done, email to me if you want, and I can mark them. I've bolded the important parts here. Look, 6, la semana pasada, past tense. 7, en el futuro, future tense. Use everything that you've had in the last couple of weeks on environment to help. Definitely try and give examples and go on from there. Thank you for listening, folks. Adios.